So I just got off work and I wanted to do a quick video of briefly touching more about how life has been at the pharmacy with all this COVID pandemic stuff going on at the moment. I did touch on it a little bit on my previous video. If you haven't already checked that out, be sure to go ahead and check that out. But I touched on there briefly about kind of an update or what's been going on in the pharmacy, but I want to further dive into that and just give a little bit more like detail or insight to kind of the day in the life of retail pharmacists during a pandemic, just to give you an idea of kind of like what's been going on right now. So as a pharmacist, as a healthcare worker out there on the front lines, helping serve those in the public, helping with the health and wellness of our community, we have a very special position and platform and a responsibility to really be advocates for obviously not only being the drug experts or being the most easily accessible healthcare professional out there for our patients, but also being a good source of information and trust and just kind of being like that beacon of hope for your patients. Yeah, we're just in a very unique time with just fear and uncertainty with the public. We are in a position where we are on the front lines of what is going on in the world right now, and it is a tremendous opportunity, but even more so a tremendous responsibility on our part to really be there for our patients during these uncertain times. You know, as a pharmacist, I took the oath, so I am here on the front line serving my patients, serving my community, and doing whatever I can to serve those that come to the pharmacy. And the impact that we're making right now in our community is just very different in terms of businesses actually being open. And I know it varies from state to state, but we are one of the very few businesses, or retail businesses should I say, it's basically just pharmacies and grocery stores that are still open to the public, with the exception with a few other like businesses, like I think like Home Depot and Lowe's and places like that are still open for, you know, some of the essential like home maintenance type items. But you know, we're like one of the few places that are still open that people can still come inside. And even with that, a lot of patients' doctors' offices are closed, or they're only doing, you know, telemed or only doing like serious procedures that need to be done. So we're basically one of the few essential workers that the public can actually call and interact and come see and get advice from, get information from, you know, get help from. And we have a very important role right now to be playing, that's kind of stepped up even more. And I just want to talk briefly about kind of what I have been experiencing and kind of like what's been going on and everything right now. So a lot of things have changed, and as if the world of pharmacy wasn't already evolving and changing like every day, like pharmacy is never the same. It's one of those industries that is constantly changing, like literally like every day as we speak. But things have just kind of happened. There's been so much like uncertainty and so much like information here and there, and just like new developments and everything. So everything has just been very kind of like up in the air, and it's just happened so fast. And as terms of us, as far as procedures and protocols or like policies or whatever, all that has kind of been back and forth and changed. So I mean, a lot of days or a lot of weeks we're just kind of like left up in the air, like, well, what do we do now? What do we do for this situation? It's been a whirlwind. It's been kind of a ride on that. But so some of the changes that have happened in my particular pharmacy. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I am the pharmacy manager at the Walgreens here in Auburn, Alabama. So at my particular store, and I would say for the most part nationwide at all Walgreens, they're basically implementing, I think they're pretty much implementing the same things that we are now. And granted, in some of the cities or metropolitan areas that are like highly infected, or certain cities or certain states that are just overly populated or have more of an infected population, their standards of procedures may be a lot more stricter than ours. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about that in a little bit, but I did write some notes and everything down here. So if you see me looking down with my pen in my hand, that's why, just because there's so much to talk about and it's just like all over the place. But some of the things that I did want to talk about, like what's kind of been going on at Walgreens. So our store hours have actually changed. So our storefront is usually open from 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. and then our pharmacy is open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So lately, pretty much nationwide, all Walgreens have gone from store, like both store in and pharmacy have all gone to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And so that's been a big change in itself, because we went from a 14-hour pharmacy to now a 12-hour pharmacy. Our shifts have still stayed the same. So usually the pharmacist shifts are either 8 to 4 or 2 to 10. We are still scheduled for that amount of time, but as I mentioned also again in my previous video, I've been still coming to the pharmacy from like 7:30 to 3:30 or 7:30 to 4 in the morning, and then I've been coming in an hour early since I am salary. because basically we've been leaving like right at 9 p.m. And the reason why they did that, a little sip of some whipped coffee. The reason why they did that is the idea obviously was to kind of get ahead of, mainly for the front end, but mainly to get ahead of the restocking, keeping up with the demands of the retail side, of all the items that people are panicking over and stockpiling on, like toilet paper, cleaning goods, anything of that manner that's like typically just gone in any retail setting. So mainly for the front end to kind of help like rearrange and get things off the truck and whatnot to restock, but also for just extra cleaning and sanitizing opportunities. I would say for the pharmacy, the biggest thing is we already kind of had this protocol in place for the most part. Like our pharmacy obviously always been exposed to very sick, very contagious, disease-stricken patients that come through our pharmacy with carrying God knows what. So the pharmacies are a very unclean place in general, and I mean just because of all the different, especially in a high volume pharmacy like mine, where we do like on average 550 plus prescriptions per day. So we get a lot of public interaction and all kinds of foot traffic coming in the store. So in general, we already had a very good practice of cleaning and sanitizing pretty often. Well, obviously now that has been like really elevated, where we're cleaning we try to do it at least like every 2 hours, but sometimes just during different peaks of the day, you have different demands at the pharmacy where you have just little rushes. It's kind of chaotic for a little bit, or for a few hours. So it's just kind of like, sometimes every 2 hours slips by us. But we really try to do our best, especially if we know someone is sick. We definitely sanitize right after they leave, sanitize any touch surfaces, any common touch surfaces. We are constantly washing our hands. We are constantly sanitizing our hands. Speaking of hands, my hands are screaming through the fingertips because they are so dry from the constant hand washing and sanitizing of them. They're just they hurt by the end of the day. I've never used so much hand sanitizer and soap and lotion products all in the same time, because my hands, they're just they have that feeling they're just super sensitive and dry, where I don't want to touch certain surfaces like paper or towel surfaces or sheet surfaces, because it has almost that feeling of fingernails on chalkboard. I don't know how to explain it, but all from the excessive hand hygiene I've been having lately. So that's been one of the things that's happened. So basically the changing of the hours for the restocking and sanitizing purposes. Also, we have marked off, there's certain designated social distancing lines in the pharmacy or in the entire store. There's a designated area where they can stand where they're at least 6 feet apart from everybody. And I would say from what I've observed, for the most part, most people have abided by that. There's still some people that just I don't know, they just have zero couth to them. They have no awareness. They don't care. They just rubbing up against people. They're leaning all over the counters and just hacking and huffing and puffing on and spitting everywhere. I'm just I don't understand. Do you not know? Have you been living under a rock? Are you not aware about what's going on? We're in a pandemic. Please go away. Please be smart and go away. But yeah, so we have the social distancing marking lines. I know in a lot of stores they have plexiglass up. And our store was alerted that we were actually getting the plexiglass, but since we're not a highly infected population where we are, we're going to be one of the last stores that get the plexiglass covers or protection shields. But I feel at this point, by the time they actually get to us, we'll be over the hump of all this, so it almost will be kind of pointless to an extent. I don't know. There's just so much uncertainty when all this will be over in the first place, so I have no idea when we're going to get those plexiglass surfaces. For the most part, most of the employees, especially my technicians that are up front with the customers most of the time, they are wearing gloves and masks. It's not mandated that we have to with Walgreens. However, we are encouraged to wear a mask and gloves, but the problem with that is there is still a shortage of masks and gloves. And I think with the gloves we're okay, but with the mask, there's still uncertainty of getting those in, and we're only allotted to have 3 per week. And so if anyone is in the healthcare field and has any understanding about how the proper donning of mask and gloves works, you have to change those out between every sanitized or unsanitized interaction, if you catch my drift. So that would mean essentially we would have to change out gloves and masks between every interaction or every contaminated surface or area or environment that we were in when you properly use masks and gloves. So it's a little hard to be completely 100% compliant in terms of infectious disease control during these times. So you just try your best, and the most protective recommendation you can do is hand washing. So soap and water, at least washing for 20 seconds, trying to avoid touching your mouth, face, and nose. Everyone is doing that protocol as best as they can. I feel like that's the most important. Try and limit your social interaction with people, and trying to keep a safe distance as best you can. Speaking of safe distances, I know they want us, or employees is also want us to implement 6 feet apart. So for anyone who's ever worked in a pharmacy, know that it's basically like a little box, and depending on the amount of people that you have in there, it's impossible to keep 6 feet apart from each other. So, we just try not to talk and spit at each other as much. So we try to stay as safe as we can in our little box as best as we can. So I'm sure you've been hearing about drug shortages as well. And yes, that has been happening. I would say, like, in the beginning, when this kind of first got serious, at least here in Alabama, I feel like it was like the first couple of weeks of March. People were going insane. They were going nuts. They were panicking. They were trying to stockpile medication. So just like what was happening, the toilet paper and food at the grocery store, so was the medications in the pharmacy for a little bit, which caused kind of like an immediate drug back order and shortage for a lot of these medications, because people were panicking, trying to get 90 days, even up to like 6 months of their prescriptions, which was just over the top and ridiculous. I get the fear and uncertainty to an extent in all of this, but these folks just don't think about the supply and demand chain, and they don't take into consideration other people in the world. This is what's been messing up this whole fiasco, what's going on in the grocery store with food and what's going on in the pharmacies. So in the beginning, like in March, middle of March, it was chaotic in the pharmacy. It was nuts. And I mentioned it again in the previous video. The phones were just ringing off the hook. We had nonstop just traffic in drive-thru and in the pharmacy. I mean, it was pretty chaotic for the first couple of weeks, I would say. And just the amount of, insurance overrides that we were trying to get for patients' prescriptions. And we were trying our best to kind of be mindful and be trying to mandate and use our best clinical judgment of, was it okay to give this person like 90 days or more of their prescription based on like whether it was a maintenance drug and kind of the availability that we knew at the time, like in the warehouses. We were having to do a lot of judgment calls on a lot of these medication fillings, but I feel like the hysteria and the panic of that happened in March, and then for the past couple of weeks it's actually died down, surprisingly, and it has actually been a blessing in the pharmacy, because I feel like at certain parts of the day, so in the very beginning of the day and at the very end of the day, we're pretty much dead. I feel like most of our demands and volume in the pharmacy is now happening kind of more in the middle or the meat of the day. That has allowed us to be able to do a lot of things now that in the pharmacy that we haven't been able to do, or we don't get to do on a daily basis or a weekly or even a monthly basis, because we're just so busy, and we're usually just spread thin in terms of the amount of help versus the amount of the demand of the pharmacy that we're trying to keep up with. So some of the things that I'm actually shocked that Walgreens, as a corporate company, one of the biggest things that we get hounded on, and one of the biggest things that us as pharmacists really try to push back on, complain if you want to call it, but it comes from a sense of danger and safety for the patients, but they've really pushed back on meeting metrics, like our weekly or monthly metrics. Like, I was shook at that. Shockingly, they have encouraged us to, not encourage vaccinations and like blood pressure readings or like health screenings, and I'm kind of shocked at that, because that's always a metric for them to meet. They've just overall just decreased their metrics for us to meet in general, which has been so nice, like kind of just taking that off our plate, so we're actually able to focus on the most important things, like being there and serving our patients. A lot of our phone call lists have also decreased, like all the new therapy calls, all the adherence call, all the 90-day calls, all the late to therapy, some of the save a trip refill stuff that we have to focus on. A lot of that has been like decreased, including our technician phone calls. That seems to not be as much either. So that's been nice. Speaking of terms of like just kind of store protocol as well, we've been doing a lot more drive-through business, which was expected. And it's so funny too, because now we're like selling a lot of retail stuff to drive-through. For the most part, drive-through was only for like drop off and pick up of prescriptions, and get a few kind of actually pharmacy related stuff over the counter, like some of the over-the-counter drugs or medications. But now, like, hey, if it's a drive-through, they can get it. So we've got like grocery list forms that we have that we'll write down the grocery list for patients, that whether they call ahead or they just in the drive-thru, we just have like a store associate go help us go grab all the items so we can sell it through the drive-thru. We've really been encouraging as much business to come through drive-thru as best we can, just to cut down on the potential of contamination and infection of the inside of the store, which I feel like it definitely now has showed, since I feel like some of the panic, like I said, is kind of mellowed out. We're not getting as much foot traffic. Drive-thru definitely stays nonstop, but we're not getting as much foot traffic inside, which is really great. That's helped. We've always been in a position where we are constantly at an increased risk of being exposed to God knows what from what comes into the pharmacy. We've had a good bit of COVID-19 positive patients come through our pharmacy, and I could only think of one, and they informed us that they were positive. They were coming to pick up a prescription. Yes, we have been seeing some of the combination of the Z-Pak and the Plaquenil combination. They were coming to pick that up, and they said they had COVID-19, and they came inside the store, inside the pharmacy, and we were just like, what are you doing? Why didn't you come to the drive-thru? Please come to the drive-thru, or have someone else come pick it up for you if you have that availability. But like I said, there was only one that I recall that was positive that actually came in the store. All the other ones came through drive-thru, or they had a family member or a friend to actually come through drive-thru and pick it up for them. Luckily, from what we know, everyone who tested positive gave us a heads up and told us, so we took even extra precautions, making sure we were wearing gloves and masks at the time during that interaction with them, and making sure we were sanitizing everything. We still every day are getting phone calls. Do we have any masks? Do we have any gloves? Do we have any alcohol? Do we have any hand sanitizer? And the answer is always no. And if we happen to get some in on the truck, it may just be like a couple of each, and they are gone like that. And actually for a while there, it got kind of a little uncertain, like if we were even gonna have enough cleaning supplies for the pharmacy. I think somehow corporate has been sending some emergency cleaning kits for us every once in a while, but I mean, we are going through the cleaning supplies at the pharmacy, which is expected, but sometimes it's like, should we cut back just a little bit just to make sure that we still have some before our next shipment gets in? We don't know. But you know, we try, we do our best. Actually, one of our technicians, whose mom is a hairdresser, she's been making up some barbicide sanitizer for us. So that actually has helped maintain our supply of cleaning supplies, because we're able to use that, because that is highly effective against bacteria and viruses as well, including the coronavirus. So that's been nice, very sweet and gracious of her to do that. But yeah, I would say now things have pretty much calmed down, and it's just such a different environment now that we're in. We still have chaotic moments, but for the most part, we're pretty dead now. And for my area, since I am in a college town, you know, the university is closed. They have been closed, so classes are not reconvening. All the students are gone, and so we kind of have a little bit of like a ghost town here in Auburn in terms of the students. So like our volume is strange. It's still high, but we're not getting as many phone calls or even doctor phone calls or just prescriptions like everywhere. Like we're really just getting the true maintenance prescriptions and, you know, some of your acute prescriptions like antibiotics and things that are coming from like little urgent cares or emergency rooms. But I mean, it's been pretty mellow, and it's been such a nice break, I will say. So once we kind of got over the chaotic hump, we're just kind of in like this cool, easygoing spot right now. I would say there definitely has been an increase in just gratitude and thankfulness for the most part from the public. It's very nice, and I would say that really, some of the more worst days that we have had, that's what really like drives us and really just keeps us going during all of this. Just knowing that we are an essential worker, we are here to serve our community, and we are doing the best that we can. Like, we're here. You know, a lot of people don't have the access to their doctors right now. We're still here to refill or renew their prescriptions. We can do emergency refills on a lot of their maintenance medications, you know, of course, based on our clinical judgment. Like always, we are the drug experts, and we are here to help. So it's just really nice and refreshing just to hear the gratitude that we are getting from I would say most of our clientele, like most of our patients, just the gratitude that we're having. It almost feels like, you know, the same gratitude that you would hear someone give to like a soldier or a veteran for our country. I mean, it's kind of nice and refreshing. At the same time, it's just kind of like, you know, that's my job. I'm a pharmacist. I took the oath. that's what I do all day, every day, you know? At times, like, it just feels like another day at the pharmacy because, you know, that's what we do. We're pharmacists, so. But sadly, I know that increase in gratitude and thankfulness will probably die off as usual, and we'll just go back to being verbally abused and disrespected and treated like a fast food chain. Just people being ignorant and impatient with lack of understanding that anyone else exists in the world other than them. So we're gonna eat up all the gratitudes that we can right now because this probably won't last very long. But yeah, I think that's really the tea on everything. I mean, I know it was all over the place, but that's the reality of it. All this is kind of all over the place. But yeah, that's how life at the pharmacy has been. We're still, you know, we're continually getting just different and new information, and, you know, just kind of adapting and changing our protocols and procedures, and just, you know, making the best of it that we can. You know, we are in a essential worker field for sure. Being a pharmacy, especially a retail pharmacy, I just try to think how grateful I am for the essential workers, like not only the nurses and doctors, but also those at the grocery store, people that are also on the front lines. They may not be in the healthcare field, but they are still on the front lines, and they are still going to work, trying to make our lives as normal as possible as it can be during these times. You know, we are very fortunate to live in a time, in a generation where we have so many like resources at our fingertips to keep us entertained, to keep us educated, to still continue to shop for all of our needs and, you know, not necessities, and have it delivered, have the availability of curbside pickup. We're in a best case scenario of a worst case scenario, if you want to look at it that way. You know, you just gotta keep staying positive. You guys keep having hope. Like everything else, like, we'll make it through. This time shall pass. People just gotta keep being smart, just keep being kind, and making the best of the situation. And, you know, we're gonna make it. You guys keep looking for the positives of what's going on right now. I think there's just so many people that are just focusing on the negatives and only seeing the negatives, and it's really hurting them. It's really hurting them, not only mentally but physically, and I really pray for those that just have like this really just negative mindset, you know. Either way, I've been rambling for such a long time. I'm gonna get back to my afternoon, and yeah, hopefully you got something out of this, a little bit more of an insight about what the heck has been going on in my life at the pharmacy daily. So yeah, there's that. All right, well, thanks for watching. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye, y'all.